Welcome back, you guys. So yes, once you've decided what you want the height of your ramp to be and what you want your transition radius to be, you can get started on laying out the plywood and cutting it. So the first thing I like to do is I like to stack a couple of pieces on the ground. That's going to be the easiest way to set up a compass-like jig to scribe the radius. I don't like to use a piece of string. It can stretch and it can wiggle, so it's not necessarily going to be a perfect line. Once you have your plywood laid out, take a 2x4, lay it down, mark your flat bottom, which is going to depend on the thickness of the lumber you use for the flat bottom. Because I used 2x6, I marked 5.5. If it was a 2x4, it would be 3.5. The next thing you want to do is measure from your flat bottom and do the dimension of your radius. So in my case, it was 6 feet. Set a screw in the center of the 2x4, or in my case, I offset it from the edge of the 2x4 by 1 inch. The next thing I did was back down in the same, whether it's the center of the 2x4 or the 1 inch offset that I chose to do, drill a hole that is going to be the same width for a Sharpie. A crisp, clear marker with a nice point works really well. So drill that hole so the Sharpie fits real snug. And then from that point, it's pretty simple. Just drag that 2x4 with the Sharpie pressed firmly down, and it should leave a deadly perfect radius on that piece of plywood. Before you actually cut out your radius, you might want to make sure that you're actually going to be able to get both pieces out of one sheet of plywood. So I didn't draw my line in the right spot the first time, so what I actually had to do was move the 2x4 back, redraw the line. So what that essentially did was it shrunk this space, and that way I was actually able to get both pieces out of one piece of plywood. Now, to establish the height of your ramp, if it's going to be under 4 feet, you just measure up from the flat bottom and make a nice square line to where the transition starts. And you should also square up a nice straight line from exactly where you started to draw your radius. And next, it's time to get your plywood up to a nice working height if you can. A couple of sawhorses work well. Careful not to cut through them as you're cutting along. And get a jigsaw, and I usually cut right down the center of that marker line, trying to go as straight as possible. This is going to be your template piece for all your other cuts, so this one has to be nice. And finally, do your square cuts to establish the height of your ramp and where the transition stops, and you're done. So we're not actually done all the work we need to do on this piece. The next thing is figuring out the notch for your coping. There's enough info for that for it to be its whole own video, so that's coming up next, you guys. I want to say thanks for watching. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're getting something out of these videos, and I hope it's going to help you build an awesome ramp. Stay tuned for the next one, cutting out that notch. See you guys.